things just keep on getting more and more ridiculous during this offseason. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another Overwatch League news video. Striker is back with the Boston Uprising, and it's so crazy for so many different reasons. For one, this is where Striker's career kind of took off. It's where his career got made, if you will. It's his original home. But also, there was some previous drama with Boston. I mean, there's been a lot of drama with them throughout the years, but specifically in 2018, towards the end of the year, there was some major stuff going on internally where players were really not happy. If you haven't been following since the very beginning back in 2018, you probably would not know that Striker and the Boston Uprising, I guess, kind of had a falling out, if you will. Nothing's directly been confirmed, but what we know from rumors and from people talking about it is that Boston went through some major drama and some huge meltdowns towards the end of Season 1. A lot of those guys were not happy. It was for various reasons, but one person in particular who was very triggered was Striker, because supposedly he had some big-time meltdowns during scrims and practice and stuff where he'd throw or just get really angry and like slam keyboards or something like that. I don't remember everything, but he was not a happy camper. That's all I'm gonna say. So it wasn't really much of a surprise to anybody, really, that during the offseason, Striker would end up getting traded to the San Francisco Shock. I, for one, kind of figured that his relationship with the Boston Uprising was at the point of no repair and that they were done. It was tarnished beyond belief. It was around this time in 2019, I would say, where there are a lot of rumors swirling around that Boston was kind of shady internally and that Huck wasn't a great guy, that management wasn't doing well, that coaching was kind of trash after Krusty left. There were a bunch of problems that had been reported. So that to me told me that Striker would never want anything to do with Boston ever again. But I guess I was wrong, because he is back and ready to play for this team in Overwatch 2 during Season 5. And now I, like many of you, are sitting here wondering why Striker would return to Boston. He was a free agent and had free will of where he wanted to sign. So now I, like many of you, are sitting here wondering why on earth Striker would ever want to go back to the Boston Uprising. Was their supposed falling out not as bad as originally reported? Was it maybe something else along the lines of certain individuals leaving the team that Striker did not get along with? Or was it that Striker made up with certain individuals like Huck or whoever it might have been that he had a falling out with, if there were any falling outs to begin with? Or maybe, just maybe, Striker kind of missed playing on Boston. For all we know, he might have liked it. At least for a while it seemed like he did, like stages 1 through 3. Boston were a pretty good team, everything was going great, so maybe he got homesick. The only other theory I can really think of is that other individuals who have yet to be announced are signing with the Boston Uprising, unless he already has a good relationship with some of the people on the team already, like Punk or Crimzo, Faith, whoever it may be. Whatever happened, the Boston Uprising must have come up with one heck of a pitch to get Striker to come back after all of the stuff that happened in the past. I'm sure we'll find out more info as to why Striker wanted to come back to Boston very soon, and I encourage you to leave comments down below if you get any updates or you see something on Striker's stream or social media. Please explain it to the people if you notice anything at all. Regardless of why he's rejoining this team, he's back, and it's time to accept that. And I hope that Boston fans are really excited about this. I know a bunch of you were upset when he first left to begin with, and understandably so, considering that he was the hard carry of that team. Striker put himself on the map with this particular franchise. This is where he became a true superstar, and arguably one of the best players to ever get into the league. This is a very unexpected, but also really interesting reunion of sorts. Now, from the looks of it, there's not going to be any of those former Boston players that were with Striker back in the day, but that's okay. It's a new era. And in this era, Striker once again has the opportunity to be the pivotal point of his team's success. And that kind of gets me into his value for the Boston Uprising and what this signing means. I mean, generally speaking, I'm kind of getting the same vibes as the 2018 Boston roster. Now, of course, this team heading into the preseason here in the present, I think is regarded in a bit higher of a light compared to that 2018 roster, but still, like, the same principles apply where Striker is clearly like the best player on paper on his team and could carry them to success. I mean, when you think about it, this is just a massive upgrade at DPS. Boston really needed to go big because DPS was one of the positions that they struggled with at times last year, so Striker definitely helps solve that issue. Not entirely, but he's a big-time solution. I mean, even if Boston were to not get any other DPS players, they don't get another hit scan, going from I'm37 to Striker is obviously like a night and day difference. No offense to I'm37 here, I thought it was great that he he got another shot at the league after his initial try, but I mean, going from him to striker, it's like two different universes essentially, and striker will basically be better on anything you can think of. Tracer is like the obvious one, and that solves a huge issue Boston were dealing with last year. Tracer was a major struggle at times, but also striker could be better on sniper heroes. I know we tend to think of I'm37 as a really solid like Widowmaker and whatnot, but striker has grinded that character before. He is a good Hanzo, and he is a good McCree. He can play all of that stuff. It's just we think of him as the world-renowned Tracer. I have zero doubts in my mind that striker is going to be nasty, and he very well could win games or individual fights all by himself because he really is that kind of player. And I think now that he's not on the Shock and he's on a team that's a bit worse, or I guess you could say a lot worse compared to those teams, you're going to see it more. You're going to see his value more and what he can do. And hey, you won't hear me complain. Striker was so entertaining back in the day. I mean, he's always been an entertaining player, but in 2019, there was a specific magic to him because he really did feel like that X factor of sorts that made his team. And now we're kind of heading into that territory yet again, which is super hype. Seriously though, I give all of the props in the world to the Uprising for making this happen. This is such a fantastic way to go into a new era of the Overwatch League. Now I'm curious to see if they can sign other people that would make sense as to why Striker would want to join this team. Like, there has to be some sort of friend or coach that he wanted to play with, right? There's no way he just went to Boston just because. Like, it's so weird to me. If anything, I expected Striker to maybe go back to the Shock because he loves playing under Coach Krusty, or maybe he'd end up going towards a team where some of his former Shock players were on, like Toronto with Twilight, or maybe he goes to like Seoul, you know, to be with Smurf, even though they already have Profit and everything. Teams like that made more sense to me. But here he is, putting up arguably one of the biggest shockers of the offseason by returning to his original home in Boston. Wild stuff. This offseason will not stop. It is absolutely insane. I look forward to seeing what Striker can do in this new chapter on Boston. Their projected starting lineup as of right now ain't too bad. You got Punk, you got Faith, you have Crimzo, Striker, and probably Valentine. I mean, there is a possibility he could still leave the team through a trade or whatnot, but he could end up being the starter. This roster doesn't blow your socks off or anything, but they could have that magic to them, and that's the big thing, right? That same magic, encapsulating that same thing from 2018. That's what Boston is kind of looking to do as they build their team around Striker moving forward. And with that said, that's all I've got for you in this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to let me know what you think of Striker rejoining the Boston Uprising down in the comments section below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with all things Overwatch League news related. I'll have another Overwatch League news recap coming out in probably within a week. It depends on how many moves happen. I know there's some stuff that I could have talked about in this one, but the Striker stuff just feels more important to me. That does it for me. I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.